Yes, my podcast, Playing the Field, Field Jump 007. Today, as you can see, I'm co-hosted by the Fazz. Hey! What's up, buddy?
Hey, good. How are you? What's going on?
We're great. We're back, another episode. The first thing I want to talk about, there's a lot of the guys that are trash talkers out there, right? And there's always guys throwing little jabs at each other. And the first thing I wanted to talk about, which guys, out of the trash talkers, which one is all bark? Which guys are all bark and no bite? Like, they can't really back up all the shit that they talk.
Um, it's an interesting question. I feel like Dump's the first trash talker who comes to mind for me. Um, and I feel like for a little while there, he probably fell in this category. He started to get better,
Mm-hmm.
um, especially now that he's starting to kind of beat on meats. I know that was a big thing when I first got in. Hasn't translated to many playoff wins yet, so maybe that's his next hurdle. But that's probably the first guy that comes to mind on that.
Okay, so you lost to Mike the first time around you played, right, this season?
I sure did, yeah.
And then you absolutely just clapped his cheeks. I mean, 8 interceptions, just an all-out trouncing. What was the difference in the game? I mean, what did he do that was just so different this time? I mean, you only attempted 9 passes, and obviously Dalvin Cook was Dalvin Cook. 63-21 for those that don't know.
Yeah, I think the big difference in this one was I've started to play better defense in the second half of the season. My users come along. I've started to force a lot more turnovers than I was early. I was really struggling early. I lost back-to-back weeks to D-Muse and then Mike. And in both games, it was just I couldn't get off the field. So that was the big difference. I think the biggest difference was Cook. In that game, every time I handed it off, whether it was outside, whether it was inside, a trap, a pow, it didn't matter. I was going for 7 before I was getting touched. And if you've got that going for you on offense, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Make sure opponents start to press a little bit, force them into some worse decisions, and from there it just starts to snowball.
So you think it's because you got the early lead and he made some bad decisions and he just kept falling into that trap then is what happened?
Yeah, I think he's starting to press a little bit. Obviously, he needs the one win in the last 4, and it's all tough opponents to kind of break that playoff-less streak.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess that he's pressing a little bit as he gets to the end of the season here. We're week 16, so this was his third shot at it. I think he's starting to feel the pressure of that a little bit because he was much our first game, he was much more like calm and collected with the ball. He wasn't forcing much. He wasn't, I wasn't taking the ball away, but he also didn't give me too many opportunities to do so. I think I got 1 pick in that game, and then obviously in this one I got 8. So I think in this one he's starting to feel a little bit of pressure, started to force the ball. He barely ran. Obviously he was down early,
Mm-hmm.
but the first, when it was a 2-3 score game, even like he was never handing the ball off. He was chucking and chucking.
So in terms of, I'll kind of delve into your team a little bit since you're on the show. You're first in points per game on offense, 34. Second total yards, 357. Fifth passing, 210. And first with a run, $147. Obviously you lean heavy on the run. Why are you so dominant with the running game? What makes it so special? Is it Dalvin Cook, or you just always, whenever you play Madden, at least this particular iteration, is that just what you go to, or is it just this team, the way that they're set up?
It's funny. I've pretty much always been pass heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I started, the past couple seasons in SML, I've always been pass heavy. I haven't used Dalvin to his full capabilities in any season except for this one. And the only reason I started doing it in this one is in the first 2 or 3 weeks, I lost both my top 2 receivers. So I really didn't have anybody to get open, and I basically got forced into running the ball. And then it kind of showed this really works. I should probably give Dalvin Cook the ball a lot more often than I have been.
1,800 yards and 30 tutties.
Yeah. Yeah, he's nutty. He's super fast, breaks a ton of tackles. He has jukebox. It's not as OP as it was last season, but it's still very good. You can make guys miss in the open field constantly. My run stick is decent. I don't think I'm, some world beater when it comes to running the ball, but part of it too is, this Madden, it's just easy to run. In my mind, I think it's even easier to run in this Madden than it was last one. So that obviously plays a part. it's just a whole lot of factors I think going well for me, all in the same season, and kind of showed me pound the rock, buddy, just pound it.
So would that be your advice to struggling teams is just to run more, or like you've seen enough of my streams now. If you were gonna coach me up on how to fix the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, what would be your advice?
Yeah, I mean, establishing the run this year is huge. I've said that, a run game can mask a really bad offense. We saw Matt go to the AFC Championship game pretty much solely on running like 35
Mm,
times a game. I remember I played him that season. I think he threw the ball 6 times in the game that we played. 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, like he was totally content to just run the ball and see if he gets it. The game is very favorable with, the reach for it, guys falling forward. It's hard to tackle guys for a loss. The run game makes offense much, much easier. And then just, simplifying. That's my big thing. If I were to coach anybody, coaching you, trying to coach Clink a little bit,
mm,
Rowan, it's simplify the offense. Everybody wants the big chunk plays.
right.
They'll come, but you got to open it up first by, bring the user down, bring the safeties down into the box, make guys start playing hard flats, and then you can start to throw it above them. But if you don't establish that early, it's going to be tough to do that the rest of the game.
So this one might cause a little controversy for anyone that watches it, but that's what we're here for. And really,
That's half the fun.
it may not be much of a question so much as just kind of a statement I want to make. I do that occasionally, and there's been a lot of early advances and a lot of pressure. It seems like constant badgering in the chat about scheduling, and people want updates. I get the excitement, where people want to play their next game, and we're limited on how much time we have. And obviously, this is nothing against me. Like, I try to get my games in. I don't feel like the league ever really has to wait on me. But the only reason why I'm making this an issue is I think it was DW, and I've seen 3 or 4 guys in the last couple weeks just kind of say, hey, screw it, just send my game. I don't want to hold everybody up. And I just want to let the guys know we have an advanced schedule for a reason. Like, don't feel pressured that, if the game disconnects, that you can't replay your game, or, if you guys are having an issue getting the game scheduled, just fuck it, just send it, because every game matters. We have the advanced schedule for a reason. If you need till 9 p.m. of advanced night to play your game, take that time to get your game in, because I don't care if you're 1-15 or whatever, the best team in the league. Like, your game matters. You only get so many games a season, and everybody wants to play their game. That's why you're here. So I just want to let you guys know it's okay if you're not because a lot of times, like for me, I work nights and you work nights too, so it doesn't always add up to get that in by 3 p.m. of the first day. And I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it's okay. You can take your time, and your games do matter. I don't know if you got anything you want to add in that or not, but
I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. When DW was saying sim the game, like, dude, no, don't, like, that was an important game.
Yeah.
Like that should have never been simmed under any circumstance. I can understand, okay, maybe both the teams are, 1-14.
Sure.
Maybe you might have an argument to sim the game. But even then, like, we're all here to play our games. So, I don't think guys should be feeling the pressure, feeling the rush. We, again, like you said, we have the advanced schedule for the reason.
Yeah,
so
and I get why they stay on top of it. You want to make sure people are scheduling, because some people suck at scheduling their games. They just don't pay attention, and there are the bad apples out there. But I'd say the majority of the guys are proactive. There's, even if it's just a stupid comment like, "Hey, bro, when you good?" or whatever. Like, for the most part, guys are attempting to schedule in one way, shape, or form. So I understand why they do it, but at the same time, it's okay if you can't. But I don't want to keep beating a dead horse. There's a rumor about the Madden 22 cover athlete being Derrick Henry. Do you think it's going to be Derrick Henry, or who do you think supposedly it was like a GameStop in Pennsylvania that had like a poster or whatever, talked about getting your reserve in, and it had Derrick Henry, and it was kind of the similar art as to what the cover is. Do you think it's going to be Derrick Henry, or who do you think the Madden 22 cover athlete's going to be?
Yeah, I can definitely see them changing up. We've had back-to-back quarterbacks now, Mahomes and Lamar. Yeah, we've had a lot of quarterbacks recently, so I definitely can see them taking a break from that. Usually, I feel like they try and go with the cover athlete based on like what they're going to advertise with the game, which makes me think maybe not the run game, because the run game has been so OP the last 2. but obviously, like, he's coming off a huge season. He had 2,000 yards, right? Like, he was incredible. He's got a lot of hype. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it be him. And I mean, hey, if the Madden curse wants to strike, it certainly would help Jacksonville. So,
Right.
I wouldn't mind if he misses a game with a sore hammy or something.
Oh man. So, what do you think is like? I brought it up. I think the last podcast I did, or the one before that. Coach Paulie's taking a backseat, and I don't know if this is part of his game plan just to stay off everybody's radar. But you're not hiding from me, Paulie. You're not fucking hiding. I'm exposing. You're 12-2. He was undefeated the last time I talked about him. What is Paulie's deal with this? Do you think it's a strategy to stay off the radar? He lost to Bomber 27-7, and he lost to Dirty Dan 18-17. So he's not quite flourishing against the elite right now. Or what have you talked to Paulie, or do you know what's the strategy behind this?
I can't tell what the strategy is. We brought it up on Heat Check a couple episodes back.
Mm-hmm.
When he first started his run, I think it was back when he was 6-0 or 7-0. But that, I mean, it always seems to be his thing. He always talks about how he's not elite, he's not up to par with the best guys in the AFC. The stats usually all disagree,
Right.
but I don't know if it's his way of trying not to hype himself up too much, or if it's like a defense mechanism, like if he loses, it doesn't hurt as much because he never expected to win. I would probably lean more of that second one. I think that's more just his way of, it won't be too bad if I lose because, well, I expected to lose all along. I would probably guess it would be more that, but I don't quite get the angle. It's not really not my wheelhouse.
But he's doing things quiet. 12-2.
Yeah.
82% completion through the air. 22 tutties, 6 INTs. Really clean football. With another 1,100-yard rusher, almost 500 yards from Hines, and then his defense, number 1 overall, only 14 points per game, and top 3 for total yards, passing yards, and 6 against the run, only allowing 93. So he's playing sound football, and his roster is not the best.
Yeah.
So I think that Paulie has some bark. I think it's just to keep guys off his back, that he's not wanting to draw too much attention to himself. He's hoping to kind of fly under the radar. He makes I kind of think like the whole thing with him talking about Bomber. They just like, oh, Bomber, I just wish I could be as good as him, or that my dick was as big. But I think that really that those are some kind of slights from Coach Paulie, a couple little jabs that he's throwing up there because he's that East Coast, But
oh yeah, Boston.
Definitely interesting to say the least from what Coach Paulie was. Everybody wants to talk about Super Bowl champion. Who do you think the matchup's going to be and who's going to win it? And I guess before that, Prime hasn't won one yet. What do you think? What is it that's holding Prime back this cycle? And then you can go into the Super Bowl question.
Prime, I think it's mostly he's just consistently a bad matchup with Bomber. He seems to be able to handle anybody else in the AFC. I think outside of one game against Dan, I think he's mostly cleaned up that season series. So, he seems to just have a real bad matchup against Bomber. Mm-hmm. The funny thing with that, that top 3 in the AFC, you got Bomber, Dan, and Prime. It's funny because it feels like each one of them is each other's kryptonite.
Right.
So you've got Bomber who can beat up on Prime, but he can't beat Dan. You've got Dan who can beat up on Bomber, but he can't beat Prime. And then you've got Prime who can't beat Bomber, but he can beat Dan. So I think it's just been a case of mostly bad matchups. Prime's loss against Matt in the one season. That was just honestly a tough break. Mm-hmm. Choked away the lead in the end. He had it.
It's not the time he's choked on something. But go ahead.
I mean, hey, I'll let the brother feud go there. Just I'm not going to get involved, but yeah, it's outside of that season, I think all of his other playoff losses have been to Bomber. So I think as long as he gets a better matchup in the playoffs, he can break through that. I keep picking him to go to the AFC or to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. So I think one of these years is going to happen. I think this year I've been on record saying that I think we're going to get a different AFC team in the bowl. I think we're going to get one of Prime or Bomber. I tend to lean Prime. So, I think Prime's going to represent in the AFC this season. I'm feeling confident about that. NFC, I mean, I feel good right now. I'm on a roll. Haven't lost since the Mike game. So I've been feeling good about that. Dump's playing pretty good football right now. Obviously, I think he just came off a loss to Tiny, but he's playing pretty strong. Obviously, RD's the reigning champ. You can't sleep on him.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had to pick, I'd say it's probably you got Q too. Q's playing very well.
Yeah, 13-1.
Yeah, 13-1. He's played great. So NFC, I feel like pretty much anybody in the NFC playoffs can beat anybody. It's a very interesting conference from that perspective. If I had to pick one, I'll stay confident. I'll pick myself. But if I'm not going to pick myself, I think it's Q's season.
So do you think that Q's the biggest threat to you, or who do you see as the worst individual matchup for you personally if you had to meet him in the playoffs?
I match up very poorly against Meats. Obviously, it's a question of if he gets in currently.
Yeah,
I think
7-7 right on the bubble.
Yeah, I think he still has to win 2 more games, and Mike has to lose 1 more. But yeah, I don't match up great against Meats. I don't match up against RD that great either, just because he can pound the rock with Cam, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. I think I've split with Q, and I haven't lost to Dump yet. So I'd say of the 3 or 4, I think I'm most worried about Q for sure. He also seems to know the style that I play. Like we played once, not this season, the season before, and he tuned me up pretty good. He, you could tell that he knew my reads, he knew my checks, and he was all over it defensively. So I'd say that if I had to pick toughest comp, I'd say probably Q in the NFC for me.
We always talk about winners. Let's finish with the biggest losers. Out of the losers, who will have the biggest bounce back next season, or who do you expect to make, maybe not even the playoffs, but who's going to have the biggest turnaround out of the bottom feeders, myself included?
I was going to say, I mean, you've definitely got the roster for it.
Yeah.
And in most of your games, you're very close, and you make like one decision that ends up really backfiring on you.
Right.
So you just need to clean that up. I do like KJ going forward. I think KJ's starting to show that he's maybe starting to figure some things out. His roster's, getting back to a good spot. Obviously, the Steelers started well, but they were a little old. He's got that running back now, and like I said, the running back can help mask a struggling offense.
Sure.
So I think if I had to pick one team to bounce from the bottom to maybe make a run, I think I'd go KJ.
Yeah, it's a weak division. Woods has always been up and down, and I kind of have to agree with you when you're looking at teams that are at the bottom I don't know. There's really not a good. I don't think that Tiny's going to be able to do it with all the guys. That's one maybe.
Yeah,
the
he's
toughest
just
division.
such a tough division. Such a tough division.
And then Latin could do it, but I think that he makes some questionable calls on defense, and he's going to have to change. It's not like
more than questionable.
Yeah, he's got some head scratching, and obviously Raider has the best 3 players in the game. I didn't realize that Hardman was 98 speed too. Like if he knew how to utilize those guys, like there's no reason why he shouldn't be lighting up the scoreboard every week.
Yep. And Tyrann Mathieu is a freak on defense.
Yeah, he is.
Absolute freak on defense.
Yeah. Rowan Cup. That's another one that could make it, because he's not too far away. He's at 5-10. The Eagles 7-7. Cowboys 10-4. So yeah. But then again, I just played him, and I think that if he plays that predictable and makes those type of decisions all the time, that he's still going to be that bottom tier player like me. That leaves you with the Titans and Texans. October was always a really good player when I played him in the NFC West a couple cycles ago. I think Coop's
tough.
Yeah.
Coop's tough. That defense is very, very good. Defensive line doesn't give you a lot of time to pass. Obviously, I just played against him, so I'm pretty fresh on him. But Coop's a tough matchup for sure.
Do you think that the SML is skewed more to running or passing? I mean, we got some good passing numbers this season, but we also have basically 4 rushers at or near the 2,000-yard plateau, and Akers 25 tutties, Cook 30, and Hendricks and Eckler with 15 and 16 respectively. Not to mention Letty Brown has 19 touchdowns. So where do you think the SML kind of lays on the specter? Are they more run heavy first, do you think?
Yeah, I would say it would have to be run heavy. I don't know if that's just a cause of just the game playing the way that it does. Obviously this is my first cycle in the SML, so I don't have a ton of past history with a lot of these guys. But I think if you were to go down the list of people and you kind of categorize them as, run first or pass first, I think you're definitely going to end up with more on the run side. And even if they're not, there's not a ton of like elite passers where like, wow, this guy's passing attack is really scary. I don't know how I'm going to stop it.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of that's with the rules, like a lot of those elite passers that you see in mud or online, it's because they're using, gun bunch and they're using the same 3 plays all game. And, they're just able to, if it doesn't work this one time. And also if you call a play in our league, you have to wait like 4 plays before you can call it again. If they want PA boot over, they can run it the very next play and again and again and again and just decide if they're going to throw it to triangle or O or whatever. And here, I think you have to have that variety. You're forced to play more sim or play within the given rules of the league. And I think that kind of ties your hands a little bit. And then, like you said, there are a couple guys that are elite stick users, but also the game does favor the run. And if you know how to exploit, the blocking or the twitch running or whatever, then you could be elite with running the ball. So I just find it interesting just looking at the stats from time to time. But the biggest one is the interceptions. They always kind of get me. Do you know who the league leader in interceptions is right now?
I mean, it's got to be Mike after that last game.
Yeah, 43 interceptions on the season. Joey Burrow, 37. Patty Mahomes, 36. Bobby Pearson, 33. And Deshaun Watson, 32. Those are ungodly interception numbers.
It's just huge totals.
SML leads the CFM community in the interceptions thrown. That's crazy, dude. Do you got anything that you want to close with? Any closing statements or just any type of bold predictions or statements you want to close out with?
I mean, everybody, we're talking about interception numbers. Yeah. Simplify the offenses, boys. You see a lot of questionable passes. I remember that there was one clip going around from Raider who chucked that pass into like, I think it was like quadruple coverage, like that. There was just no shot that the guy was ever open for more than half a second. So let's clean those interception numbers up. Those are some huge totals.
I think Coach Paulie needs to coach us up. He kind of looks like the best in terms of the touchdown interception ratio. We're gonna close it out. We're nearing 23 minutes. I like to stay 25 or under. Hopefully the heat check can get near that half-hour mark someday, so I don't have to pause it while I'm working or whatever. But
no promises, man. I walk in and Bomber gives the agenda, and then he adds a couple of things in the bottom, and before you know it, we're at an hour and a half.
Nothing wrong with it. I mean, a lot of guys like to have the more content, but for me, I have to watch it in segments because I'll watch it between calls or whatever. But
sure.
Anyway, appreciate you coming out here, buddy. It's great having you on the show. Good luck. I hope this is your year to get the championship because I'm out of it. But it's always
next year. Next year you'll be in there.
It's always good to have you on the show or on a show here in the SML network. Appreciate anyone that watched today. Check us out, SidMaddenLeague.com, DaddyLeagues.com/SML. Like, subscribe, take care. Have a great day.
Yes, sir.